Welcome to the Street Report. Thank you for tuning in to the Street Report podcast. My name is Jeff Woodard. As always, I am your host. Today, we're going to talk to Honda Pro Jason. He's a self-proclaimed Honda fanboy, but a little secret, so am I. So we're going to geek out a little bit on Honda stuff. But this dude's done it all, really. He got to fly the Honda Jet. He got to dance with the Honda Robot. He just got himself a brand new Type R. So we're going to talk about all of that and much, much more. After the interview, as always, you know, I got to play a little bit of music. So today I'm going to debut Blazy's new album, which was recorded with Swordkilla was the producer. Ruler Y mixed it down. And it's just a really great and potent new album straight from San Antonio artist Blazy. So, hey, buckle your seatbelts. Let's get the show on the road. I recently somewhat recently, I guess a few years ago now, started following you online because when I was looking at purchasing a new car, I kept seeing you pop up on a lot of reviews about Hondas and stuff, and I liked what you were doing, but it looked like you were you working at a dealership at the beginning, or?
Yeah, at the beginning, I was I worked at a dealership for 20 years at a Honda dealership.
Okay.
I started all the way back in '96, and when I started Honda Pro Jason, it was started at the dealership.
Yeah.
And it was it's funny because it was a nickname given to me by one of the technicians.
Oh, really?
Oddly enough, because when people had questions on the cars, anyone that came in through the front door had any technical questions, they always came to me because I was the guy that knew everything technology about the car.
Yeah.
And then as technology started getting more and more into cars, and Bluetooth and door lock settings and everything were becoming really common, the technicians weren't really up on that. They know how to fix the cars for sure. When they broke down with diagnostics, they were amazing.
Right.
But when it came to how to set up Bluetooth, they just didn't know.
Yeah.
And I would always say, go grab that Honda Pro guy. He knows everything about these. I was like, Honda Pro, and it just kind of stuck.
Yeah. The YouTube thing really took off.
Yeah, the YouTube thing definitely took off, and it was not something I was planning on.
Yeah.
I did not think that this was going to take me out of car sales. I didn't think that I was going to be doing YouTube videos,
for a living.
Coming up on 4 years now, a living basically, traveling the world, doing all this stuff. But
yeah.
It basically came out of a need to help other salesmen and to help the consumer better understand the car.
Yeah.
Because I looked at all the YouTube videos that were out there, and I saw a lot of the videos, and they were all basically the same. There was a journalist that wasn't in love with the product. He was in love with cars or just journalism, and when he would walk around the car and he would explain all the stuff that the manufacturer gave him. The weight of the car and the engine, the capacities, all the interior dimensions. That doesn't really help the consumer make an educated decision.
Yeah.
And, like you love Honda, I love Honda. And some of the things I love about Honda is what makes it different.
Right.
And so I started doing videos that show how much different Honda was with the technology and with the safety and with things like that.
Right. Yeah, because you know what? I just remembered what I originally found. What I was looking for was how to get my text messages to display on my Civic Si, and I couldn't figure it out. And I remember finding a video, I believe, where you were explaining exactly how to do that. And I think that's when I started looking at your videos and kind of following what you were doing. And we do appreciate that because I'll tell you what, it's kind of crazy how many times I go to dealerships and I know a lot more about the cars than the people that are selling them. And
yes.
I don't understand that. What is there a technique at dealerships where they think that that's a good idea for some stupid reason?
No, it comes down to training.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is that the models come out and everyone just wants to sell a car. And I think most of the training done at dealerships today are focused on how to sell a car, how to deal with customers, how to correctly identify the right customer, and how to sell them a vehicle correctly.
Yeah.
Which is fine, and I get that. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of training on product knowledge.
Yeah.
And to actually understand what you're selling. Unlike, you go, and that's one of the reasons I go to so many dealerships around the world and train them as much as I can. Because if you go buy a refrigerator, for instance, you walk in and that salesman knows everything about that fridge. I mean, everything.
Yeah.
He'll show you shortcuts and how to make, hey, if you're having a party and, you only have 1 hour and you need 4 gallons of ice cubes, let me show you the trick on how to do it faster.
Right.
And you're like, oh, because he knows everything. You go into the car dealership, it's like, here's the test drive, and what can I do to put you in a car today?
Right.
And that's like their instant. I think they're missing the boat. I think
so
consumers,
too.
That's not what they're looking for. Right. Consumers aren't looking for that anymore.
Right. And, especially nowadays with so much tech and everything being in cars, I think that it's more important than ever, that the customer leaves fully understanding what the car is capable of, because these cars do so much. And
they do.
Yeah, and if you don't dig into them with the customer a little bit, they leave, they don't know how to do anything, and it turns out they don't use half of that stuff. A lot of elder people or people that just aren't too familiar with tech, they won't dig into it. And
that's my exact point. That's the part that bothers me so much. So, to take Honda, for example, I believe that Honda's technology is heads and tails above everything else out there.
Yeah.
But if you don't know about it, you're not using it, you're going to buy, your 2018 Accord, for an example, which is going to have some tech that's going to blow people away.
Oh, yeah.
But if you buy the car and you use the power windows and the power mirrors and the power door locks.
Right. It's just the same as anything else.
Right. And in 5 years, when you go to trade in that car and go buy something else, you'll go look at a Toyota or anything you want and be like, oh, I guess this will work. But if you know how to use all the technology, and you understand that, the new Accord is going to be able to recognize street signs and speed limit signs and tell you, what the speed limit is. I mean, there's tech in this new car that's going to blow people away. And if you know how to use it, next time you're looking for a car, there's no way you look at anything other than Honda. There will be no other choices.
Oh, that's the way you start to be if you're, because I'm like that now. It's like, but you know what? I still cross shop though. Whenever I do go to buy a car, I still cross shop everything that's of that, price range. And,
sure.
10 times out of 10, I end up with a Honda because, let's face it, reliability is a factor. And that if you buy a Honda, a Toyota, a Lexus, or an Acura, you're getting a good car, and it's going to last you a long time. It really doesn't matter what model you get.
Right. So what family car do you have now?
Man, I don't really have a family car, and it's killing me. I have an Acura TSX from 07, which has a pretty small back seat, and then my Civic Si, which has a pretty small back seat. When you compare the Civics, though, with other cars in their class, the back seat is actually pretty good, especially in the new Civic. It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge.
Are they going to slot something under that now? Because, the Civic's grown so much, it's bigger than Accords used to be.
Yeah, there is a little bit of an opening between the Fit and the Civic now.
I think so.
So there's a good possibility.
CUVs and SUVs are, of course, the monkey wrench there. Everybody wants those right now, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
And they have the they have the HRV, so there is a good possibility though that we'll see another sedan maybe built off the Fit platform.
Yeah.
Nothing official. Honda. People ask me all the time, hey, are they bringing another S2000 back? What are they doing with the CRZ? What about a Prelude? What about an Element?
Yeah.
People are always curious on if they're going to bring back any of these cars, and I can tell you that Honda is definitely testing almost everything I mentioned.
Yeah.
Some sort of replacement.
Yeah.
They're constantly building. Their designers are designing new cars. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new Hondas have been designed, built, and tested, and never seen the light of day for whatever reason. So I can assure everyone that's listening that Honda has been thinking about a new S2000.
Yeah.
And
it is time.
It's past time.
Yeah.
I mean, we should have done that for a while. I think a lot of their focus was on the NSX for good reason. They needed to get that car out.
Yeah.
But now that the NSX is out, I think there's an opening for a couple of new cars. Like
Definitely.
you said, something to fit in between the Civic,
yeah,
and then possibly some sort of, I don't want to say halo car, because I think the Type R is a perfect halo car for Honda.
Definitely.
But I think some sort of sport two-seater, possibly all-wheel, rear-wheel drive car for Honda, I think would do really good.
Yeah, it would do good. I mean, especially, you got the new Miata out, and that's really the solid competitor, and
yeah,
I think it's about time. I would love to see a new S2000. That would really get me going.
It would be amazing.
The S2000 was such a perfect car,
mm-hmm.
and people who don't get Honda, there's something like people don't get the Japanese, I guess, side of it. And let's go back a little bit, because as far as engineering goes, Mr. Honda, he was the son of a blacksmith, and he always had like engineering in his mind since he was a small child. And he started off building little motors for bicycles and stuff,
Yep.
And was just always a perfectionist. I don't know if you know about the story of Edward Deming. Do you know that?
I don't know that story, no.
Okay. I had a previous guest on this show, Louis Altazan of the Automotive Hour podcast. He told me the story of Edward Deming, who at the end of World War II went to Japan and, as an American, taught these Japanese companies how to be successful. And it was like American car companies kind of had it in their heads, well, if cars go on forever, then they won't buy new ones. It was like a different way of thinking. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I think it does work well, because people who own Toyotas are generally very loyal to Toyotas, and people who own Hondas are very loyal to Hondas. And the reason being is that quality. All right, let's just stop right here for a second. I think it's a little bit important for you to understand who W. Edwards Deming was. It's a very important figure in U.S. and Japanese history and U.S.-Japanese relations. So I want to go ahead and play this little segment from that previous interview with Louis Altazan. So let me jump real quick into the VTech time machine and bring us back to that episode.
A lot of people don't know who W. Edwards Deming was. W. Edwards Deming is the gentleman who went to Japan. A lot of people heard of the American that went to Japan after World War II and kind of got their economy going again, and they based a lot of their processes on him. Anyway, that was W. Edwards Deming. When the war ended, MacArthur had invited certain guest speakers to come into Japan because this country was absolutely destroyed. And he knew if he couldn't get them going again, it was going to be a long, hard road. So he brought in people, including W. Edwards Deming, who did a series of lectures across the country. And sitting in those lectures was Mr. Toyota and Mr. Honda and some of these guys. And they listened to what Deming had to say, and they took it to heart. And that's pretty much what built the Japanese industrial miracle that we see, or it was certainly one of the things that contributed to it. They took his theories, his management processes, and put it to work. And even today, they practice a lot of that. The highest award you can get for quality in the country of Japan is the Deming Award, which ironically is named after an American. But the war ended, and, Japan got back on their feet, and Deming came back to the United States. And his teachings pretty much weren't needed here because the United States, when the war ended, was in just a wonderful position We had a country untouched by destruction who could produce at full capacity, and an entire world that needs everything that we could make. Not only that, but most of our competition had been destroyed. So everything rock and rolled pretty well until probably the mid-'60s. By that time, Germany's kind of getting back on their feet. Japan's getting back on their feet. Now there's some competition. Well, the United States auto industry kind of bumbled and fumbled around all through the 60s and 70s. They blamed it. Well, they got cheap labor over there, which wasn't really the case. And they have this and they have that, and it's unfair and blah, blah, blah. But the fact was they were building a better product, and the American public responded by buying a better product at a better price.
Yeah, and the cars do last forever, and they still buy new ones.
Right, and they still buy new ones, exactly.
Yeah, and right. So, and those old ones will live on for somebody else.
So speaking of buying new ones,
yes.
What happened to Project Orange?
What happened to the question of the night? What happened to Project Orange?
Yeah.
So let me give you an idea on why I bought Project Orange in the first time.
Okay.
In the first place, when I started Honda Pro Jason, I thought Honda Pro Jason should have a vehicle that best represented what he was doing.
Yeah.
So I was at the dealership looking for a car, and a 1997 Civic EX Coupe 5-speed came in.
Nice.
And I was like, wow, this is really nice.
Yeah.
The car was immaculate.
Yeah.
From bumper to bumper. There was nowhere on the pedals. There was nowhere on the shifter. There was nowhere anywhere on this car. It was amazing. The car had 220,000 miles. One owner. The guy serviced it at the dealership. Whenever anything legitimately wore down, he said, just fix it.
Yeah.
You don't need new brakes. I don't care. I want them new. The hubcap has a couple scratches on it. I want you to replace it.
Yeah.
He was immaculate about this car. I'm like, wow, this is the car that I can show everyone how amazing Honda is, how well Honda's put together, that it lasted this long, and it's in such great shape, so I bought it.
Yeah.
Soon after, I started bringing it to some car shows, different events I was going to, and people would come up to me, hey, Honda Pro, how are you? Where's your car? What are you driving? I'm like, oh, I'm driving that 97 Civic. Come check it out. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And they looked at it and they'd be like, oh, this is really nice. And then, look, there's a Civic Si with an exhaust. Let's go take pictures of that one. And they'd run away.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, no one really cared about this car, but maybe me and two other people. But the general population could care less about this vehicle. I'm like, you know what? I need something to get people's attention.
Yeah.
I need something to grab people. So I'm like, you know what? Let me buy an orange Civic Si.
Yeah.
And let me supercharge it and custom paint it and do all this crazy work to it, and that would attract attention, and it worked. Because people, I named it Project Orange.
Yeah.
People loved watching the project. They loved watching the build. They came from all over the country to come visit the car and come see me, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And, that was kind of the idea. If I could get people to follow the car and follow me, I could better educate and entertain them about Honda, which is the basic underlining of what I'm trying to do. So the problem with that car is that it was getting old. The technology's old, turbo cars are out, and I really think that, the persona of Honda Pro Jason should really have the newest and the best Hondas out there, the best technology.
Yeah.
I can't really tell people about how great the technology is if I'm driving 3-year-old technology myself.
Yeah.
So I went back and forth on what I was going to do with it. And I was going to sell it as it was with all the high-performance parts on it to a fan or to somebody and donate some money to charity and do all that. But I started thinking, what the best outlook would be and what would happen, what could possibly happen in this car in the future. And, talking to King Motorsports, who helped me build the entire vehicle, we decided to bring the car back to factory condition.
Yeah.
Sell it to a dealership that could sell it to somebody in pristine condition. And then we took all the Go Fast parts off, and we're actually auctioning those all off and giving all the proceeds to charity.
Oh, really? Okay, well, there you go.
So that's what we're doing with that. And as you and some people that follow me would know, I bought a brand new Civic Type R.
Uh-huh. Crystal
black pearl. It is gorgeous. Every time I drive the car, I think I love it just a little bit more.
I bet. Oh, man. So talk about it. How's it feel?
It's so. How long have you been following the Type R's? Since Integra Type R, pretty much.
Oh yeah, for sure. And
me too.
I was gonna say I've seen one in person. I got to sit in it. I didn't get to start it or anything, but as far as sitting in it, I just got this impression like, okay, yeah, this is on another level. The seat felt amazing, first off.
Yeah.
And then the way they did the steering wheel with the flat bottom and everything, I was thoroughly impressed with. I mean, you definitely feel the quality inside and out. You look at the size of those brake rotors, and I mean, this is definitely not. You know, people say, "Oh, $35,000 Civic." $35,000 is a bargain.
It's. I agree. When Honda first started talking about pricing, or when they were first trying to kind of hint at pricing, I was thinking the car is going to be about $40,000.
Yeah,
and
so did I.
Honestly, the car's worth all of $40,000. It really is. It's
easy.
It's outstanding from bumper to bumper. It has everything you want in a hot hatch: all the power, all the handling, the seats, the reliability, the dependability, the looks. I mean, everywhere. I talked, obviously, now that I own one, I'm on every Facebook page and social media page about the car. And one thing that every owner says, and they're always posting pictures, they're getting thumbs up, and people saying, "Wow, that's a beautiful car."
Yeah.
From every other car buyer out there, I have guys in Harleys, Chevys, Ford Focuses, Mitsubishi, Mitsubishi Evos. They're like, "Wow, that's really nice." But thank you so much. It's very kind. The car's outstanding. Now, for me, one thing that makes this car even better is how it's built and what their idea was behind it.
Yeah.
Because up until now, most of the Type R's were Honda Civics. Then Honda said, "You know what? Let's build a Type R. Let's upgrade the brakes. Let's upgrade the suspension. Let's upgrade the engine, the seats. Let's make this a race car for the road." And they did a great job. I mean, I enjoy, and I've driven every single Type R except for the EP3.
Wow.
I've driven every Civic Type R. And they're all amazing. I mean, they're all outstanding.
Yeah.
This one's on another level. And this is the reason why. When they decided to build the 10th generation Civic, they built the Type R first. They designed it. They talked about the platform and the body and the rigidity. They made sure that this body and the structure was ready for the Type R, and then they built the other Civics.
Wow. So what made you decide? Because I've driven turbo Civics. I've driven the new ones, but I've also driven, aftermarket turbo Civics.
Sure.
And I've driven aftermarket supercharged Civics.
Uh-huh.
Now, I understand with like turbos, like the sky's the limit almost. You can get insane horsepower out of a car. But I always honestly liked the way it felt driving the supercharged Civics. And you decided to go supercharger, so I was wondering what made you decide to take that path.
Well, there are a couple different reasons. One, I'm not a mechanic.
You're right. Me either.
So I don't work on my own cars.
Yeah.
And all the research I did, people that have turbos, they're always messing with something.
Thank you.
Manifolds are cracking and breaking. They're always tweaking it. Something's always going on.
I mean, there's a lot of heat either way, but...
Oh, for sure. But I didn't know a lot of people that took turbo cars, aftermarket turbos, and drove them from coast to coast back and forth.
Right.
And my Project Orange, I drove to each of the coasts. I drove all the way to Canada. I drove the car for 10, 12 hours at a time, all the time. And I never even worried about it ever breaking down. And I don't think I have that sense of security with the turbo.
Right. At least not aftermarket, of course.
Not aftermarket turbo.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to, when I was starting, part of what I wanted to do is I wanted to help, bring to light the aftermarket companies. And I thought since, I had a pretty good pedestal to stand on, if people were listening to what I had to say, let me help some companies out like CT Engineering, and let me give them some free, some props, because they make a great product. Comtech has been around forever,
Yeah.
And now they're CT Engineering. And so I thought, you know what? I use their supercharger.
Yep.
I drive it everywhere, and I'll show everyone how cool it is.
See, and I kind of like their approach is that they're standing behind that. Like, we can make as much horsepower as we can without getting into the danger zone and keeping it like a safe and reliable vehicle at the same time. And, you know, a lot of these people that make aftermarket parts, they don't honestly give a shit about whether or not your car is going to break off later on down the line. But CT Engineering, they kind of keep that in mind that, you know, you bought a Honda, you probably want a reliable vehicle still.
Right, and you're right. And I don't know if these other companies don't really give a shit, but what they're concerned with is making power.
Yeah.
They want, you know, because most of the people that are using aftermarket parts,
maybe they don't give a shit.
No, they don't give a shit. They want power.
Yeah,
they want the most power they can possibly get, and they know things might break. But they're okay with that.
Yeah,
as long as they make the most power.
Yeah.
But you're right. You have companies like CT Engineering, you have companies like Honda that make good power, but also have the consumer in mind, saying, you know what, we know we can make more power, but this is the safe zone.
Yeah.
So you want a couple 100,000 miles on your car, no problem, you get it.
And that's the other thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about us Honda heads is it's like, if you want a vehicle that you can throw a little bit of money at and get power out of it, and you know, because that's the thing is, like, a lot of the parts and stuff for other cars are a little bit more expensive. I mean, like, Civics are pretty, I mean, the aftermarket is big, so therefore parts and stuff aren't really all that expensive. You know, when I think about it, it's going to cost me $5,000 to supercharge my Civic. But then at the same time, if I had another car, depending on what car it was, it could cost you a lot more than that to supercharge it. You know? Parts for Civics aren't that expensive. You can build a badass Civic, brand new from the factory, and then put $5-6 grand into it and have a really good car. Quick. And not only quick, it's like responsive. Like, if you keep, for instance, what I like about them is you keep it in like third, right? And you're going around a good mount, you know, like a windy road where you can keep it in third, and that's a good area to play in. Like when you're playing with the gas in third gear, it's a real responsive feel. You know what I mean?
Third is my favorite gear,
isn't it?
In the SI and in this car. Because you can get, I mean, you can do pretty much highway speed if you want.
Yeah.
You know, you're starting to get up there on the RPMs, but
right.
Just any tap of the accelerator just pushes you back in the seat. Just as a great feeling. Yeah, for sure. That's how you say that.
No doubt. No doubt. So let's talk about the Type R, man.
Yeah.
306 horsepower?
Yep, 306 horsepower, 295 foot-pounds of torque. Now, that's rated from the factory.
Yeah, but we've been finding out.
If you've been in line, many people, I've probably seen 7 or 8 dyno charts already.
Yeah.
That people have been running these cars on the dynos.
Yeah.
And they've been getting 300 plus horsepower to the wheels.
Wow.
To the wheels. So
that's insane.
So somebody at Honda somewhere that's been, you know, recording these numbers and definitely put it on the low side.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't really have that information, but I can tell you for sure that those numbers are pretty much inaccurate. Because Honda, which is crazy, because when you think about it, I know 4 or 5 different manufacturers now that have gotten in trouble for putting out numbers that were too high. Either gas mileage was too high or performance numbers were too high.
Right.
Honda went the other way. They went way low.
Yeah, and I think they've done that before with gas mileage as well.
They've done it with gas mileage. Yeah. They've done it with cars, you know, the V6 Accord with the 6-speed.
Right.
You know, everybody knows that car makes a lot more power than Honda claims, but they rated it just where the other one is.
And that last couple gens of the V6 Accord, by the way, with a 6-speed, that was a great car. If you can lay your hands on one of those for a good deal, buy it. Bam! I'm telling you.
when I was selling cars, people would ask me about that car.
Yeah.
And I tell them it's a touring car. It's not a car that you don't really want to start probing up the mountains, factory from that car. But if you're going to go on a nice long drive, that's the car you want. You have an obscene amount of power.
Yep.
It handled really good. It was super comfortable.
Oh yeah.
And you'd keep up with pretty much anything on the road.
It's I mean, they're Mustang competitors. I mean, they're at least at the time. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, people underestimate those cars left and right. But a V6 Accord with a 6-speed, that is a great car. And let's face it, I don't care who you are, what kind of car you're into. Honda makes the best transmissions, hands down. The way that the 6-speed feels on a Honda, I'm sorry, but I've driven a lot of cars. I'm not talking out of my ass. I go to dealerships and just drive cars because I love to feel how cars are. The new Mustang is a great car in every way. I mean, I love the new Mustang. It's a good car. I love it. Would I buy it? No, I'm not going to put my money behind it. I mean, I've heard too many horror stories behind Fords and Mustangs and stuff to put my money behind it. But it's a really fun car to drive, okay? But at the same time, that V6 Accord with the 6-speed, that's a fun car to drive. Especially if we're talking coupe. It was a great car, and it was nailed down, and I mean, it handled well. And if you tweaked it out just barely, you would have just an awesome car and could compete with Mustangs and Camaros all day. So. Yep. What do you think Honda's future looks like? I mean, do you think they're going to... Because everybody's kind of gone a little bit more performance lately. It's kind of funny how, like, at the same time, they have to trim back on gas mileage, but they're also figuring out how to make cars go fast. Right?
Yeah, well, welcome to the world of turbos.
Right.
I think that's one of the only reasons that we have so many turbos now is everybody wants more power.
Yeah.
But the manufacturers have to be concerned with gas mileage. And the only way to give people both of those and keep the cost down is go turbo.
Yeah.
See, I think Honda will be turbo present pretty much their entire lineup. I don't really see any reason why every single one of Hondas wouldn't have a turbo.
Yeah.
But I also think they're going to be going a lot more electric. Whether it's being a hybrid electric or a full electric or a hydrogen possibly.
Yeah.
But you're going to see, I think the Honda's Clarity, which is they have a new family of Clarities. It's going to be the hydrogen, the plug-in, and the full electric car. Yeah. I think you're going to see a lot more of those throughout the trim level, all the way up into the SUVs as well.
Yeah.
So not the performance side, but I think you're going to see that. But then the turbos are going to start kicking in. All the cars are going to become turbo models. So you're going to get some more performance out of those as well.
Yeah, I wonder, because I've got a 2013, and I'm kind of set on keeping it because it's a 2.4.
Yeah.
And it's the last 2.4, and that's the starting. That's the baseline because I haven't done any forced induction yet. So I figure you take a 2.4 and add forced induction, you're going to get more out of it than if you're doing it with a 1.5 or something. You know what I mean?
I hear you, and you're right. I mean, the bigger the engine, the more power you're going to make.
Right. But at the same time, a lot of this new technology, you're just not going to be able to add to, or you could, but it would cost you a lot, I guess. But like, for instance, the new SIs have electronically controlled stabilization, the adjustable shocks. Active dampers. There you go. That's the words I was looking for. My bad.
And you can't add active dampeners to your 13.
No, it would be. I mean, I don't know. It's probably maybe there's a mad scientist out there that could do it for you, but it wouldn't be worth the money.
No, it wouldn't be worth the money. But all of those technologies, you're right, are going to start coming in.
Yeah.
In the new cars.
Yeah.
And there's even some other things like in the Type R. they figure out a way to remove all the torque steer in the car.
Yeah.
So my car, under any throttle conditions and any gear, there is no torque steer. So that steering wheel does not jerk left or right under any conditions, which
really?
is simply, it's spectacular. There's a couple of videos out there that they literally, they pop the clutch in first gear fully, so the car has a launch control.
Yeah.
Somewhat. Honda calls it launch control. What it does is when you fully accelerate from a dead stop, clutch is in, first gear, fully accelerate, pedal to the ground.
Uh-huh.
The RPMs go to 3,500 RPM and just stay there.
Yeah.
And that's your launch control. Then you pop the clutch, the car is at its perfect, the tires spin just barely and the car launches forward.
Yeah.
What's amazing is with your hands off the steering wheel, the car launches straight ahead. You bring it all the way to 7,000 RPM, jam it into second gear.
Hold on, you say that like you've tried it.
I'm going to say, okay, so yes, I tried it. And yes, I haven't done it before. But yeah, I tried it, and it blows your mind because you come around turns, and like with my SI, I was prepared for a little bit of torque steer, so I was kind of counteracting it a little bit. I was ready.
Right.
In this car, it feels like an all-wheel drive car.
Huh.
I mean, you whip around turns at 40, 50 miles an hour, and the back end just slides right around like it's supposed to. It's amazing. And that's, Honda did that with equal drive shafts, equal length drive shafts, electronic power steering, the 20-inch rims. All these things go all together. The LSD, they all combined to give you no torque steer. So that's something that the more power you give your 2.4, the more torque steer you're going to get.
For sure.
And you can't do anything about that. So the newer cars, and people are like, oh, the new technology, who wants it? Well, it's going to make driving way more fun.
Yeah, it can. It has the potential to, for sure. And it depends on what the car company itself decides to do with technology. Some people do things straight up on the eco side. But Honda's always had like this knack for being able to satisfy both like your economic side and your sport side. Like even a Fit is kind of fun to drive. I mean, it's not a super powerful car or nothing, but just the way that it steers and everything, it's a fun car to drive.
I don't think there's anything in the Honda lineup right now that's not fun to drive.
I mean, they got a pickup truck and a minivan, but still yet. I remember from owning an 07 Odyssey that car was actually, like, it drove like a car. It didn't drive like a big-ass van. It drove like a car.
Have you driven the 2018 Odyssey?
No, I have not driven the new one yet.
Do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
Go get to a Honda dealership when you're able to.
Yeah.
Jump in a 2018 Honda Odyssey. Put it into sequential mode. So it's got a 10-speed transmission that Honda built. This is the world's first 10-speed front-wheel drive automatic transmission ever built by a manufacturer. Honda built it, put it in the Odyssey. You put that car in sequential mode. And this is something that I did myself. They flew us out to Hawaii.
Yeah.
About 2 months ago to test drive the Odyssey. And I wanted to drive it. Like, I wanted to see what this thing's really going to do.
Right.
So I put it in sequential mode. Family was, out eating. I was by myself. Full acceleration from a dead stop. Front wheels spun. I'm going to say they probably did 2 or 3 rotations. Grabbed, took off, second gear, chirped second gear, and the car just kept pulling all the way through the gears. It was a minivan.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable how razor sharp and how quick this vehicle is.
Yeah.
And it is, even not in sequential mode, it is fun to drive. And you're right, the Ridgeline's fun to drive.
Yeah.
All of them, they're not race cars.
No.
I mean, the Ridgeline's a pickup truck, but if you trucks and you jump from the Ford to the Chevy to the Honda is going to be more nimble.
Yep, exactly.
It's going to be more comfortable. It's going to be more fun to drive.
Yep, exactly. Yep. Yeah, it definitely. Like, none of their vehicles, it's like they don't feel as big as they are. Like
totally. It's crazy.
If you drive other vehicles in the same class, the other vehicle always like the way that it feels when you're driving it, like it feels like a bigger, boatier thing. You know what I mean?
It feels heavy. It feels
Yeah.
The Honda feels very nimble.
Yeah.
And especially the new 10th generation Civic. I just drove for the very last time. It's sad kind of when I think about it, but it was the very last time I drove Project Orange from King Motorsports to the dealership that I was trading it or selling it to. I got in the car and started driving it, and it did not, just the seating position just didn't have the same feeling as the Type R. When I jump in the Type R, I feel like I'm part of the car.
Right.
Like the car is wrapped around me, and I'm part of the car, and it's going to be an experience. With like same as you're in your 13. When you get in it, you kind of sit up a little higher.
Right.
You don't really feel like you're part of the vehicle, which you get used to after a while. But then once you jump in a new one, you're like, oh man, it's like so different.
Right, exactly. Because I was gonna say I am used to mine now, and I've got it in the position that fits. You know what I mean? But I know exactly what you're saying, because when you sit in the Type R, you're seated a lot lower, and you just feel like part of you and the vehicle are one unit. And I feel that in mine now too. But that's why I'm just such an advocate of a manual. Just because, like, when you're driving a manual car, you're engaged with much more of what the vehicle's doing, and you and the car are like working together to accomplish driving. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's
100%.
like once you're addicted to driving manual, you ain't going back to automatic. So I was really glad to hear that the new 2018 Accord is still going to do a manual in both motors. Let's hope they're not as elusive as they have been. But man, they're killing off the coupe, man.
So I mean, here's what people don't get, and I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
And I've talked to Honda many times on this. If more people would have bought the coupe, Honda would still be making the coupe.
Hey.
If more people would drive and buy manual transmissions, they'd make more cars with manual.
You know what, though? Hold on. I got to call your bluff on this, because let me get, and I know that this is exactly what Honda tells you, but because I've been hearing it from them like left and right. Because every time I'm at a Honda dealer, I ask, do you have a V6 Accord with a 6-speed? The answer is always no, of course, right?
Right.
The car exists, and I'm like, why don't you have it? 100% every time they tell me, people just aren't looking for a manual. Okay, now hold on. The Civic SIs right now, you cannot produce enough of them. People are buying them, and they're not sitting on the lot more than a couple of days, right? The Type Rs, how long are people holding on to them? They're selling them. And by the way, they're not just marking up Type Rs. They're marking up SIs right now.
I know.
So you're telling me you can't manufacture enough SIs and Type Rs to satisfy people's needs, but people won't buy a V6 Accord with a 6-speed? Come on, man.
Now, well, do you think, hear me out, though.
Yeah.
Do you think the Civic buyer is the same as the Accord buyer?
Maybe not. For the most part.
Normally, for the most part, there's always the changes. I mean, I'm not the typical Type R owner.
But hold on, why aren't they marketing that Accord V6 with a 6-speed coupe as what it is, though? Because and I know that it's a Mustang and my Camaro a competitor, but most people don't know that. Why don't most people know that?
That's a good advertising question.
Yeah.
That is a great advertising question. Because the Honda dealerships right now that are sitting on V6 6-speeds, I sold them. I was there for 20 years.
Yeah.
Those cars, most of the time, we'd get one in and we'd put it all the way in the back corner of the lot.
Oh, man.
No one would ask about it. Barely anyone would ever. The only people that came in and bought those were people like you that would come in from 2 states across going, hey, listen, we heard you have a 6-speed. You're the only one in 3 states that has it.
Yeah.
Please buy it.
Right.
And that's how it was, because dealerships weren't ordering them.
Yeah.
So Honda wasn't making them. If Honda's not making them, they're not going to continue. And people, the thing about the coupe, and we brought the coupe up a couple minutes ago, is that, so if you can drive, if your family is big enough where you can drive a 4-door sedan, you're not going to buy a coupe because your family's too big. It's too hard to get the baby seats in. It's too hard to do everything like that.
Right.
But if it's just you and your wife, you and your girlfriend, you could buy a coupe or a 4-door sedan.
Right.
So you have those choices. So, eliminating the coupe isn't really eliminating any buyers because they could still buy sedans if they wanted.
Right.
So, I mean, I love the looks of the coupe, and I don't think Honda has said that the coupe is gone forever.
Right.
But the coupe is definitely not in a 2018 Accord model, which we're just sad because when I see a coupe on the street, as you know, they look so beautiful.
They look cool, man. They really do.
They look cool.
Especially the last couple of generations. It's a great looking car. And they go. So the new one now, let's talk about some of the new tech. I mean, I know Honda Sense is in everything now. So
Honda Sensing is in everything. And Honda wants to make sure that everybody knows that they're not just doing brake mitigation. That's Honda Sensing isn't just the car will stop for you before it hits something to save you.
Right.
Honda Sensing is lane departure warning. And Honda Sensing is lane keep assist, or it'll keep you in your lane. If you run off the road, it'll actually physically push you back into the road. And adaptive cruise control and all these things, Honda's doing standard EX and above standard on all Accords.
Yeah.
100% for 18,
100%
and then on
for
the
18.
Fit, it's going to be EX and above.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know. See, and this is my bad because once I left car sales about 2 years ago, I really lost what was going on in the car market, with other manufacturers. But I don't think there's another manufacturer in the class that's offering any sort of, autonomous driving, kind of sensing in the whole lineup, from base model all the way up. I don't think Toyota or Nissan's doing it.
They are at certain levels. Honda Sensing might be going a little further, but I know that I think my father-in-law just bought a new Corolla that had some of the brake assist and stuff. I don't know if it would stop you, but it would slow you down, and certain things.
Right.
I just don't know how far it goes. But yeah, so the Accord, they're getting rid of the V6, but they're squeezing quite a bit of power out of these 4s. One is a detuned Type R engine, right?
Yeah, they're doing a 1.5 turbo and a 2-liter turbo, which is going to basically be a tuned down version of the Type R. Probably won't have all the internals the same, but it's going to be the same basic engine.
Right.
Which will, it's going to produce about the same amount of power, horsepower as the V6 with more torque.
Right.
And, as you know and I know, torque is what's going to give you the acceleration.
That's what moves you.
As Americans, we're all hooked up on horsepower all the time, but it's really torque that's really going to get you up there and going. So
the
new Accord, it's going to be epic. I think it's going to change. It's going to change that sector for sure for the midsize.
Yeah.
Once people see all the technology that's in it, the ride and the comfort and the room inside.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the car in person yet, and I always hold back my final decision on what it looks like and what I think of the styling until I see it in person.
Yeah.
Because the Civic Si, the one I bought, the 2014, when that came out with the different wheels, there wasn't a person I talked to that liked it. Everyone said it was god ugly. They destroyed the Si. It looked so bad. How could Honda do this?
I liked it.
But then in person, it looks amazing.
Right. Yeah.
But right now, if you read what's going on online, a lot of people are talking down about the new Accord, how ugly. Oh, it's so ugly. Oh my God, they ruined it.
Now I'll say this because I got to be honest. I am a fanboy, but I like it. I think it looks great. But I also think it looks great because the Audi A7 looks great. Let's face it, it looks a lot like an Audi.
Well, as human beings, when we see something, we immediately try to connect it to something else.
Well, that's true. That's true. And in person, it may end up. But it seems like the rear 3/4 look. I saw a lot of Audi in there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you know what? The designers that design the cars, are also human.
Of course.
You know, and as crazy wicked as it would be to have a designer and put him in a bubble and not show him any other car,
right?
And then bring him out in 2017 and be like, design this Accord. That thing would look crazy. It would be the weirdest thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen. So they've seen Audis and they've seen Porsches and they've seen, and they like certain styles.
Of course.
And when they start sculpting it, it might have some reminiscence, but it's going to look like any car out there. I'd rather it look like the Audi than like a Cadillac. You know what I'm saying?
Right, definitely, absolutely.
So that would be my choice.
I also feel that like it's interesting because to me it does have that Audi look. In person, it may be different, but it also has a little bit of the Civic look, where the new Civic had that fastback to it, so they're pulling from their own design, but it just ended up, I think, looking a little Audi-ish. Yeah.
But, I mean, I think Hondas, when Hondas go down the street, you should be able to look at it and go, that's a Honda.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's just how it should be. And
yeah,
the new design is being very well received. People are loving the new Civic.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think of Honda bringing back the hatchback? Because that was a very it was a big chance they took. Because we haven't had a hatchback in years, and the last hatchback we had failed, unfortunately, in this country.
It didn't sell well, but at the same time, the time for hatchbacks is kind of now, because if you don't want an SUV or a CUV, but you still want a little bit of that utility touch, the hatchback can definitely satisfy that. And I think the new hatchback looks great. It looks so cool, man. Yeah. I mean, that hatchback Sport, that is a good-looking car. And at the price, what are you going to get that's that good? Nothing. That's the only answer to that question. I don't care who you are, what kind of brand you like. There is nothing better than that Civic hatchback Sport at its price. How much does that thing go for? It's like $24,000 maybe? Something like that?
24.5. And you get so much for your money.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you get so. Plus, it looks sexy.
It looks like you already put money into it. Like you already added stuff to it. That's what it looks like from the get-go. From the rims to the. I mean, it's got nice rims, nice tires. The way it sits, it looks like it's almost already been lowered a little bit or something. You've got the diffuser on the top of the windshield and everything. That's all included.
Yeah,
it's a great.
Yeah, and it looks really good. It looks really good, and I'm personally very happy that the Type R is built off the hatchback.
Yeah. Me too.
It's not a coupe or a four-door or a
it needed to
hatch.
The Type R needed to be a hatch.
It needed to be a hatch, exactly. People are loving the hatch and loving it so much, actually, that they're 40% over projected sales for that car.
Really? Well, good.
Projected. Well, so you say good because you're like, oh yeah, Honda, it's great for Honda. It is, but once I tell you the next thing I'm going to tell you, it's not so great. So 99% of the hatchbacks are being built in Swindon in the UK.
Okay.
100% of the Type R's for the world are being built in Swindon in the UK.
Yeah.
Honda's number one priority is the hatchback, not the Type R.
Yeah.
So when it comes to production, they need to produce as many Civic hatchbacks as they can.
Of course.
And if and when they produce enough, they'll produce Type Rs as well.
Ah, okay.
So Type R production numbers are going to be directly reflected on how many Civic hatchbacks they have to make.
Okay, so I mean, but that is good then. That if people buy more hatchbacks, they'll make more Type Rs, right?
Well, no, if they buy more hatchbacks, they won't have time
or
the facility for Type Rs.
Gotcha.
Because if your production can only be, let's just throw a number out of 100,000.
Yeah.
You can only physically make 100,000 cars working 24-hour shifts with all the people that you have at your disposal.
Yeah.
And people want to buy 99,000 Civic hatchbacks. That leaves 1,000 Type Rs for the world.
Gotcha.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're totally throwing out numbers here, but people are so concerned with, well, how many Type Rs are going to make? Are they going to make more for 18, less for 18?
Yeah.
And everyone seems to think they're going to make 3 or 4 times more Civic Type Rs for 18 as they did for 17. Oh. And here's a couple things to listen to. The 17 Civic Type R was only built for about 3 months.
Wow.
Okay, and they built somewhere between 2,500 and 2,700 cars. So if we take the 2,500, we say 3 months. We take that times 4 for a full production year for 18, and we take the 2,500 times 4, we're looking at 10,000 vehicles. And that's in a perfect scenario. But here's where people aren't taking into consideration. The Civic hatchback, which is built at the same plants, still hasn't reached the whole world yet.
Yeah.
So they're still catching up to production in Japan, in China, in Europe. They're just starting to hit Europe.
Wow.
And these countries are eating these things up, so they have to up production more.
Of course.
So as they up more production, they're going to take away from the Type R.
Huh. Oh, man.
So how many more are they going to make? Who knows?
Yeah.
Time's going to tell.
Wow. Well, I hope that I hope that they're successful with it, and that and it seems that they have been so far. But when something's hot and new, it's always like that. But I hope that it sustains, and I think that if they keep it up for long enough to where people kind of really start to learn what that car is all about, people are going to start to understand what a bargain it really is. Because, I mean, you look at the list of the Nuremberg track times, and you see what cars that car is sandwiched between on the list.
Yep.
It blows your mind. You're like, hold on. So, in reality, we're not talking about a $35,000 Civic. Let's stop saying that. We're talking about a $35,000 car that competes with cars that are $200,000.
Exactly.
On that track.
And that is just the performance aspect.
Right.
That doesn't even touch, the quality and the workmanship that goes into the car.
Right.
I've sat in Golf Rs, I've sat in STIs,
yeah.
I've sat in Focus RSs, I've sat in Evos.
Yep.
And one thing I've always been left leaving those, maybe with the exception of the Golf R, but all those other cars, I've always left saying, God, it's fast. It's like wicked fast, and it looks cool.
Right.
But it's so cheap. It's so plasticky. The gearbox just feels...
Yeah.
The seats are okay. The switches and buttons just have a real cheap garbage feel, and you could tell.
But why do I have to reach so far for that button?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Why does that button so far away? Or why do these cup holders fit nothing but a can of Coke? Like, I don't drink Coke. I want a bottle of water, and they won't fit in these cup holders.
Yeah.
And you get to the Honda, and it's just like, oh my God, like,
everything works.
Everything works.
Yeah.
Everything's in your reach. The quality is just 10 times above all the competition, and the car is still less money.
Right. Exactly. Yep. It's crazy. Yep. And I mean, and it's not always less money. I mean, honestly, like an Odyssey is going to cost you a pretty penny. But at the same time, if you test drive every other minivan and you test drive that Odyssey, there's going to be something about that Odyssey that just pulls you. Because, I mean, like, whether it's the way it drives or the tech or the fact that all the buttons are right in your reach and everything just feels right, I mean, they tend to get it all right. Instead of focusing on, like, one aspect or something. Because, I find a lot of times like I'll see a car and I'll be like, wow, that's a good looking car. I want to drive that car.
Yeah.
How many times have you done it and you go to drive that other car and it just doesn't feel right? You know, like you know what I hate about a lot of GMs is you look over your shoulder and you can't see shit.
Yeah.
The Camaro was like that, but I remember driving a Pontiac G6. It was like that. You know, a lot of times it's like they don't take that line of sight into heart, and that's another thing about Hondas. Like I just keep thinking of more things, but like every time you get in a Honda, okay, think about this. Most sports cars, any cars, you get in, right, and you're looking ahead of the steering wheel. What do you see? You see the hood.
Right.
In almost every Honda you sit in, you don't see the hood at all. It's almost like it's not there. You know, you just see the street.
You see the road.
Yeah, which to me is real important. And I guess, you know, a lot of companies don't think about this. And it's weird because Honda always finds a way to do that and at the same time comply with and exceed on the safety standards. Because that's why everybody, you know, makes the high nose and the tall hoods is because of the safety measures, but Honda seems to figure out how to do it all and still give you that perfect line of sight.
Yeah, and what I've realized, I don't know, do you have kids?
Yeah.
How old?
Well, my daughter is my oldest, and she's 15.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn 16, and then my son is 13.
Okay, and so you're going to know this as well as anybody. I have a 10-year-old and a 17-month-old.
Oh wow!
And when the 10-year-old, he drives in his dad's car and in my car. And when he gets in my car, he's always like, "Jason, this is awesome. I can see out the window when I sit in the back seat."
Yeah.
He goes, "In my dad's car, the door is so high, I can't see. I need a booster seat."
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize it. I started looking around, and a lot of other cars, they don't take into consideration the driver's point of view.
Yeah.
But they don't care about the passenger as well, where Honda does. Like, they legitimately make their cars so all the passengers feel comfortable and can see out the window, even the kids, which blows my mind.
That's true. Yeah, and that was my other one. Is I've got a kid that's about to turn 2. So we got the car seat squeezed back there too. So I'm in a Civic Si with 2 super tall teenagers and my baby seat in the middle. They're dying. But you know what? It's funny though, because we just rented a Nissan Altima, which feels like such a bigger car. Like, especially if you're driving or whatever. And even when you sit in the back seat. But for some reason, when you put a baby seat back there, all of a sudden it feels a lot smaller.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird because leg room for days, but on that width of the back seat, it's not there. Actually, my Civic Si has a wider back seat than that Altima did, which was a new Altima. It kind of blew my mind.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I normally I do a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
You know, I'm home. I'm based out of Chicago, and I'm home usually 3 to 5 times a month.
Yeah, you do a lot of traveling, by the way.
I do. Yeah, I do an obscene amount of traveling, and people are asking me, why do you travel so much? I tell them I'm the only one in the world that does what I do.
Right.
So until someone else can help me and share this vision that I have, which I'm more than willing, anyone listening, I could use the help. That'd be amazing.
Really?
But yeah, until somebody helps me, I'll continue traveling. And most of the time, I'll drive Hondas wherever I go. And once in a great while, circumstances are where I just can't physically get a Honda, I'll have to rent the vehicle.
It's hard because nobody rents Hondas.
Nobody rents Hondas. So normally I'll get them from either a press car, Honda will be gracious enough to give me a press car, or I'll go to a local dealership, beforehand. I'll say, hey, listen, I'm coming to town. Let me borrow your car. I'll drive it. I'll give you all the promotion, blah, blah. This time I was picking up, dropping it off in different spots. It just didn't work. So we had to rent the vehicle, and I brought my whole family with me. We went up to Vermont, New York, New Hampshire, Boston, and I brought, my wife, the 10-year-old, and the 17-month-old all came with me.
Yeah.
We ended up getting a Hyundai Santa Fe.
Yeah.
New year-old, whatever it was, Hyundai Santa Fe. And I drove first. And as I was driving, I was like, let me tell you about this car. And my wife said, don't even start. Like, she's like, everyone in the car knows you're going to hate it. It's not a Honda. I go, that's not what I'm going to say, though. She goes, you know what? Just don't say anything. We are on vacation. You're working. just drive. Okay, fine. I kept my mouth shut, just kind of taking mental notes of all the things that I just could not stand about this vehicle. So we end up switching drivers after about 3 or 4 hours of driving.
Yeah.
My wife gets in and starts driving, and within 2 miles, she goes, "Are you kidding me?" I go, "What's wrong?" She goes, "What's wrong with this car?" I go, "Nothing." She goes, the seat's uncomfortable. It's all over the road. I can't find the switches.
Yeah.
There was a day where it took her 25 minutes to turn on the Bluetooth.
Yeah.
And it was just thing after thing. She was, "I can't see the kids. I can't grab the kids. I can't see backing up. I don't know how big the car is. The acceleration is, I press the gas. I don't know how fast I'm going." Like,
right.
It was everything. And she goes, you were totally right. Like, this Honda's, and she was not before me.
Yeah.
She was I'll drive whatever, GM, Pontiac,
Right.
I'll drive a Hyundai, it doesn't matter. But
it.
now after driving, she has an HRV. After driving that, she's like, there's no reason or way I'd ever drive anything but Honda. Like, everything just makes sense to her when she drives it, which makes me feel better.
Definitely.
And Honda, for whatever reason, I know why, it's their reputation, but they have cars that, 10,000, 20,000 miles, there's a problem, warranty's over, they'll step up and go, "You know what? That shouldn't have failed. You're right. That part in that car, even though you need a warranty, it shouldn't have failed. So let's do something. Let's make this right."
Yeah. Yeah.
They found problems with cars that were not recall items.
Right.
They weren't safety concerns. They were just legitimate problems people had with the cars.
Yeah.
And it was a constant problem. But that problem might have happened after 60 or 70,000 miles. So Honda steps up and says, "You know what? If anyone has this problem with this car, up until 100,000 miles, we'll fix it for free."
Yeah. Wow.
What? Who? And this isn't. They've done this. They've done warranty as a warranty extension.
Yeah.
They've done this countless times. I don't know any other manufacturers that would do that. They would say, "Well, that's when we make our money. Why would you? Why would we? We know those fuel lines are going to corrode, and the fuel filler is going to corrode, and well, of course, we're going to make money on those.
Yeah,
we're going to stock those and charge them." Yeah, so
you hear about that left and right. With a lot of the parts on Chevys and stuff. They'll know a part's bad, and they'll keep it going for like years, and then finally replace it. It's weird. And Honda, on the other hand, they might stick with the technology for a while because like that 2.4 motor, it came out and they put it in the CRV, right? They put it in the
I think the Accord got its first.
The ILX.
There was a Accord. Yeah, I think it was a Accord. Yeah, Accord ILX had it.
Yeah.
CRV. I mean, they've used it in a bunch of cars.
Yeah, but if you find something that works, why try to change it every year or two? Like I find a lot of the companies too, like they kind of move too fast, and a lot of times they run into a lot of reliability issues. Where Honda finds a good motor and they'll stick with that motor for a while and use it in several vehicles and keep perfecting it. Versus
exactly.
Yeah, versus let's try something new now. This is still good over here.
Right, exactly. And I think I compare Honda a lot to the Apple Corporation, Apple Computers.
Right, because a lot of their mottos are the same.
A lot. It's very similar when you look at it because the iPhone is, and I'm an Apple user, so I'm a little on that side.
Me too.
The iPhone's pretty bulletproof as far as a phone's concerned. Now, it doesn't have all the coolest, neatest features that the Androids have, but it's bulletproof. And eventually it'll get there. Like eventually it'll have, all the technology that the other phones have.
Right.
Same with the Honda. Honda doesn't have the very, very, very latest technology when it comes to, electronics. Not always. Other manufacturers have had them first. But I always tell people Honda waits and perfects them so they don't end up, with a Ford Sync issue where even Ford hated the Sync when it first came out, the first, second, and probably third one. Honda could have just jumped on board and came out with some crazy system that was supposed to be the next generation infotainment, but they waited.
Right.
And they just got done with the Odyssey building a in-house infotainment system, which if you ask anyone that's used it, is the easiest and most fun to use by far. They're going to continue it in the new Accord, which is going to just be awesome because it's
yeah.
built in-house. They didn't have a third-party build this one. And, of course, there's a physical radio knob. They want everyone to know about that.
Right, finally.
Finally, the knob is back.
Yeah, everybody wants a knob. Come on.
Yeah, you know what? I think, I don't know, but I should say part of me thinks, I don't want to say this, but part of me thinks that Honda does things sometimes so when the end result comes out a few years later, it's oh my gosh, thank you so much, the radio knob.
Right.
You know, I personally, I like the way it looks without the knob, but part of me thinks that someone says, you know what, people are going to freak out with the knob gone.
Right.
Like they're going to go ballistic. So, you know what, it looks better. Let's get rid of the knob. And if they do go crazy, let's bring it back in a couple of years and just think we're amazing.
Yeah.
So it's like they bring it back in a couple of years, and they're making the big. I mean, that's their biggest talk when they're talking about some of these new cars. You're like, and wait for it, there's a radio knob, and everyone laughs, and the vice president's making jokes about it.
Honestly, it's not a huge deal because for the most part, I use the steering wheel. You know, because the steering wheel's got everything on it. You know, most of the stuff you need to control is on the steering wheel. So why take your hands off the steering wheel?
That's true.
And I think that's kind of their, been their idea of it is that, you should have your hands on the wheel as much as possible. So let's put everything you need there, but
without making it cluttered.
Right. But people are still going to reach for the radio. It's like an instinctful thing, So the knob should be there. Now I understand though it's true, like what you're saying, aesthetically, it looks great just to have like a smooth surface, and not so many things sticking out of it. I can see that from both sides, and that's been and in that sense, I see what you mean. By comparing it to Apple a little bit, is the aesthetic. Simple but yet beautiful kind of idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's talk a little bit about the Honda Jet, because you've even been there.
Oh, dude, okay. So, the Honda Jet's on a whole nother level. So, Honda has Honda. They have Honda motorcycles. They have lawn. They have power equipment. Sports. They have all
recreational vehicles.
Yep, and exactly. And make small engines, but they also have a company called Honda Aircraft, and this is a separate company. And Honda Aircraft builds a plane called the Honda Jet.
Yeah,
which they've been developing for at least 20, 25 years. And from what I've been told, Mr. Honda was always going way back. He was always like just delighted by aircraft and always interested in aircraft.
Yeah.
So it's crazy that now Honda actually built a jet, and in very true Honda form, this jet is a single pilot aircraft, which means one pilot can fly. You don't need a co-pilot.
Yeah.
Which in the 7-passenger jet arena, that's almost unheard of because most of them are pilot co-pilot.
Right.
And a lot of people that buy jets, they also have a pilot's license. And they'd like to be able to jump in the jet with their family and go fly somewhere.
Yeah.
Not have to go find another pilot to go fly. So that's super important.
Right.
It is the highest flying jet in its class. I believe it's 45,000 foot ceiling.
Wow.
It is the fastest jet in its class. 470 miles an hour. It's the name of the jet. It's a Honda jet, but they call it the HA420.
Yeah.
Because their initial projected was 420 miles an hour. That's what their goal was, and they far exceeded it.
Man.
It has the lowest emissions of any jet in its class.
Wow.
And it can fly the furthest.
That is cool.
So it does everything awesome. Honda. So this is what happened with the whole jet story. I called my friends over at Honda PR, who I know really well. They send me out on all the PR trips to drive all the cars with all the magazines and everything. And I say, hey, I want to get in and see the Honda Jet being made.
Yeah.
I want to get some more information. They said, so do we. I go, what do you mean? They're like, we can't get in. Like, that's another, it's Honda aircraft. They do their own thing. We're all owned by Honda, but we have no pull there. I'm like, okay, I'll contact them. So I contact them. I'm like, hey, it's about a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years ago. Hey, this is who I am, and I want to take a tour of the Honda jet.
Yeah.
And they sent me back a form letter, really nice, and they said, hey, listen, you know, Honda Pro Jason, it's really nice. Do you want to come visit us? But we don't give tours. It's not a public facility.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, I'm not. I'm going to take this one more step.
Yeah.
So I sent him another letter. I go, here's the links to all my videos. And here are links to all the videos I've already said and talked about the Honda jet.
Yeah.
So would you please reconsider? And they came back and they said, you know what? We reconsidered and we'd love to give you a tour.
Awesome.
Is there anything else you'd like? I go, well, yeah, I want a flight. And they said, you can't take a flight. Yeah. I go, well, I'm not taking a tour. I go, what do you mean? I go, well, what's the point of me taking a tour without the flight? Because in the back of my head, if I go there and tell everyone I went, they're going to go, did you get to fly it? I'll be like, no. They're like, oh, okay. Like, I want a flight.
Right.
So they got back to me and they said, you know what? We talked to whoever they talked to.
Yeah.
And you've been approved for a flight. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm really going to go fly in this Honda jet. This is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
So and this is about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
About a week before I'm supposed to go, they send me a letter. We are so sorry, Honda Pro Jason, but we're unable to fulfill your request due to the demands of production right now.
Yeah.
If anything changes, we'll let you know. And I was like heartbroken because I like told people I was going. I was excited about going. Like I'm like, it's a big deal.
Yeah,
you know,
of
I don't know
course.
anyone else that's ever done this before. So I waited about a year and a half, and I happen to have a little bit of time open.
Yeah.
And so I contact them again. I go, hey, listen, it's been about a year and a half. The videos that I've done on your jet have actually done even better than before. You know, some have 700,000 views.
Wow.
So I'd really like to get your message across. I'd like to let more people know that you actually build airplanes.
Yeah.
And they're like, great. You know, what are you doing this week? Like this 1 week. And I'm like, actually, I'm picking up my Type O, and I can drive down to North Carolina if I can get a flight and a tour.
Yeah.
No problem. We'll do it.
Awesome.
And so about 3 weeks ago, I picked up my plane. I drove from Albany, New York, picked it up at Mohawk Honda, drove down to North Carolina, and they gave me a full tour of the building facility, which is unbelievable. I could not take pictures.
Wow.
But they let me walk around, and it was like they had 9, 10 planes that they were building at the time, and they build everything but the fuselage. So the main part of the plane, the fuselage, comes in as a carbon fiber composite.
Yeah.
And they build everything else.
Wow.
They paint it. They put everything together. Some of the crazy things that I would have never thought of. I'm not a pilot, so I don't know that much about planes, nor have I ever built a plane.
Right.
But the wings on the plane, Honda built the wings as one wing. It's not wings.
Huh.
It's one wing that goes it's one solid that goes all the way across for stability. There's so many things that they do when they're building this plane that remind me a lot of when they're building cars.
Makes sense.
You know, just a car manufacturer. It only makes sense. But,
right.
You know, they took a very, I'm sure you've seen pictures of it, but if people listening have not, look up the Honda jet, and you're going to be amazed at, one, where they put the engines.
Yep.
Because the engines are literally mounted on top of the wings and not to the fuselage.
Yep.
And that was done for aerodynamics. It actually gives the plane more lift, better on emissions, and less vibrations come through the cabin because they're not attached right to the fuselage.
Makes sense.
It also allows a lot more room for bags because, you know, we're not talking about a 747. We're talking about a very small jet.
Right.
And one of the problems with a lot of small jets is there's just not enough room to put all your bags. You know, each person has a small little bag. You know, go away for a weekend, okay, but if you're going to go away for a week, you might need more. In terms of the placement of the jets, there's a lot more room in there. So I take my tour. Tour's over. We go have a nice southern lunch, which is amazing. And then they're like, okay, it's time for flight. Like, great. So we meet the pilot, and this guy was awesome. He had 11,000 hours of flight time with the jet.
Oh, wow.
11,000 hours. So I knew he was really hands. We sit down and we're talking a little bit of BS, and before, you know, we get in the flight, and he's like, so what do you want to do in the plane? I'm I'm like, well, what are my options? Like, is there like a menu? Like, I'll do everything. Like, whatever you want to bring me through, I want to do. He goes, cool. He goes, do you want to fly it? I'm like, well, yeah, I want to fly it. I go, but I'm not a pilot. He goes, I didn't ask if you were a pilot. Just asked if you wanted to fly it. I want to fly it. So we get he takes off. He's explaining everything, and I'm videoing everything and just taking it all in. And we get up to about 24,000 feet. And it's just beautiful. And he goes, okay. He goes, I'm going to turn off all the auto, all the autopilot stuff. He goes, it's all yours. I'm like, okay. He goes, just grab the yoke. So I grabbed the yoke. He brought it. Yeah, I brought it from like 26,000. Did a couple turns in it. Flew for about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Like,
wow.
It felt very, not to be weird, but it felt kind of like the new NSX, where it was super responsive.
Uh-huh.
It was really smooth. Like,
really responsive?
It was super responsive.
Wow.
Like everything. Yeah. You push back, you push down to the yoke.
Yeah.
The plane immediately responded for what you wanted to do.
Wow.
Making turns. It was, and I've flown 2 other planes in my whole life.
Wow.
And they were not like brand new jet planes.
Yeah.
But you really had to kind of fight them.
Right.
If you wanted to do something, you really had to tell the plane what you wanted to do.
And think ahead of time. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. You had a plan for it. The Honda Jet was just elegant. It was like, oh, you want to make a left right here? No problem. Let's just make a left. Let's just do this.
Wow.
And it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. I'm very happy I got to film the whole thing. And when I have more than a day at home, I'll put together the video so everyone else can enjoy it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. That must have been something else.
It is. It was pretty incredible. It was pretty incredible. And
you ever been introduced to Osmo?
2.5 years ago at SAE, right?
Wow.
And we spent some time together. We danced together. He shook hands. We danced together. We did some things back and forth. And I learned a lot about Osmo. And what's interesting in Honda, is Honda's robot, and it's the most advanced robot in the world.
Yeah.
But they use a lot of what they learned from Osmo to put into their vehicles. A lot of the sensing technology comes from Osmo.
Right.
A lot of the jet technology comes from Osmo. A lot of the NSX technology comes from Osmo. Just things they've learned in balance, and I mean
it all always bleeds down too. Like the new MDX has technology from the NSX, and it's just.
Yeah. And in a good company, that makes sense. Like that's what you're supposed to do. And that's the idea behind it. But Osmo's amazing. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I learned about Osmo that I did a lot of research on them, so I kind of are on it.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of expecting some things, but Osmos that are in like Japan Honda and European Honda, they have their own Osmos.
Yeah.
We don't share Osmos. So there's like, they didn't tell me exactly how many, but I was guessing like 3 or 4 Osmos for the U.S. There's a few in Japan, a few in Europe.
Wow.
So I thought that was interesting because I thought there was one.
Right.
Like one Osmo, and you just went everywhere. But no, there's many.
Wow,
but
really?
And the technology though, the way he can not just lift up a cup and lift up a cup and hand it to somebody, but he can lift up a glass cup, a styrofoam cup, and a wet paper cup, and not crush any of them, one after another after another.
Just from the sensing technology,
just from the sensing technology.
It's awesome.
It's truly. It's outstanding. It's really, really neat. And
I remember seeing a video of Osmo, and like 4 different people asked him a question at once. Like they all asked different questions at the same time. And then Osmo stopped for a second and then answered each one of their questions. Like it was able to like separate the 4 different people's voices and answer each question that they had all asked at the exact same time. And that right there just blew me away. And that was years ago. So that just tells you how advanced these robotic systems really are. Like people don't realize how advanced robotics is getting altogether. Right. And now it's of course going into cars. How do you feel about autonomous driving?
Personally, I'm all for it because I don't think Honda themselves are going to take the wheel away from people. You know, there's not in the foreseeable future, at least in our lifetimes, where you're not going to be able to buy a car and still drive it.
Yes,
you're
I
always,
hope not.
You know, in our lifetimes, you're always going to be able to buy a car and still drive it. And this is what one of the engineers told me.
Okay.
When I was talking about autonomous driving, he said, "Listen," he goes, "how would you like to get into the new NSX and press, the Senna button, and you could drive that car just like Senna drove it?"
Man.
I go, "That would be awesome." He goes, "That's autonomous driving." He goes, "We can set the car, not just to drive you down the street so you have no control anymore,
right?
But we can set the car to push the limits to a certain point where you can actually exceed your own physical driving ability."
Right.
He goes, "That's what autonomous driving could be like."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh man!" I'm like, "That's awesome."
Right.
I would love to, just be able to drive it like a race car driver.
Right.
I'm not a car driver, so that point's great. I think that's awesome. I think that there's been so many times for me. Now, I travel a lot by air, but I also travel a lot by car.
Right.
And there's been times where I've had to drive, 12 hours to get to my next destination, and it's not,
pleasant driving.
It's not a thrill. I'm not carving canyons and doing all this cool enthusiast stuff. I'm on some highway with cornfields on each side of me for 6, 7, 8, 9 hours.
Right.
I would love to kick back and either rest
or work on something. Yeah,
I'd like to work. Yeah, I can better use my time. And there's also been a lot of times where I personally was unable to go to 2 different events because they were just too far apart.
Yeah.
I physically just couldn't get there. Well, if I could set my car to drive while I slept for 8 hours and I'd still be able to be moving forward, I am all for it 100%.
Yeah, no doubt. I have mixed feelings on it. As long as I can always get behind the wheel, have complete control over it myself, and drive it with a manual, I'll be happy. But as far, like you said, certain driving situations aren't fun. And there's just no two ways about it. If you're stuck in bumper to bumper or something, why not let the cars keep you from having an accident? And I think it will eventually get to a point where it saves a lot of lives. Yeah,
it'll save lives. It also reduce congestion.
Yeah.
Honda's been working on this for years on Japan, ways autonomous driving can, keep that following distance between the car in front of you so people don't hit their brakes all the time.
And eventually it'll be a lot faster.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, you could. Yeah, so, if people are concerned about autonomous driving because they can't drive fast enough,
you'll be able to ride super fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because if you can safely keep the distance between the vehicles because they're all communicating, all of a sudden traveling at even 200 miles per hour perhaps isn't nearly as dangerous.
Sure.
As long as the systems are working, of course. But I think they'll get nailed down. Certain systems seem to work pretty well. I mean, let's face it, cars have been full of computers for a long time. For some reason, they don't fail as often as your home computer does.
That's true.
So cars are made to a different standard, and I think the companies realize that they have to be because their namesake is at least on the line every time there's an accident or something. So it's important for them to make the vehicles as safe as possible. And I think one day we'll all be riding around in safety pods at like 200 miles per hour and getting out safe.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's going to come down to cars talking to each other. That's I think the main concern now is that
the communication.
Car A has to talk to car B.
Right.
And once every car
and
can
infrastructure.
Talk to each other, right, every car will know what it is, and then you can go through 300 miles an hour because all the cars will know where each other is, and it'll be safe. They'll stop, they'll move around, it'll be a brainer.
Yep, no doubt. Hey, I can't wait till I can get in a car and travel to Colorado at light speed.
Right.
That'd be all right. Just like I say, as long as I still have a road that I can take my car out on and it doesn't cost you a fortune, like you got to have free access to roads that you can just drive on,
Yeah.
That's always going to be important to car ownership is American as apple pie,
It is, and it's going to be really interesting too, because with autonomous driving, there's a lot of talk of, well, if
car sharing,
my car can drive me, my car drive me to work.
Yeah.
Why can't someone else borrow my car while I'm working?
Right.
I don't need the car.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So people really going to own cars, but again, I think we're to the end of our lifetimes or beyond after that. And our kids, like your 2-year-old and my 1.5-year-old,
yeah,
they're going to start growing up with some of this autonomous driving.
Right.
And so for them, they're going to be like, big deal. Like, sure, I want the car to drive for me. Like, why wouldn't I? It's kind of driving for me now.
And then why would I own it when I could just pay this monthly fee and just get on anyone?
Exactly.
Right. And
why would I own a long car all the time?
It would be much more efficient.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We'll still have collector cars. I mean, I'm still going to have my Type R, things like that. You're still going to want to buy old classic stuff, but
man, it's going to be for rich guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Better find a way, buddy. We better find a way.
Yeah.
That sounds good, man. Well, I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover and more. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Your schedule is crazy. I know.
My schedule's crazy. Yeah, I try. I don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Like if I thought about it, it'd probably drive me nuts. I'm
Yeah.
on a plane tomorrow. I'm going to Norway and Denmark for about 10 days. Don't know anybody out there. There's an enthusiast group that invited me, so I'm like, yeah, I'll go for sure.
Why not?
Okay, cool. So I'm jumping on a plane and going. I come back next Wednesday. I land, and then Thursday I have to take another flight up to Toronto for a week for our dealer events.
Oh my!
So I'm always, but I would prefer it that way.
Yeah.
I get really bored when I stand still.
You get stir crazy.
Like I've been like. This whole time we've been talking, I've been walking up and down the block outside of the house, all the way to the end, all the way back, all the way to the end, all the way back. I don't think well when I sit. I don't feel good when I sit. I need to be up and moving and just going.
Well, a lot of people don't realize, they wonder why, like, oh, I'm doing a YouTube show. How come I can't blow up or something? It's not just doing the thing. It's like there's a lot more like if you want to be successful about anything, it takes a lot more involvement and you got to be in it like all the time. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And you've built something for yourself and that's awesome. It's really cool what you've been able to do. I respect it.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
I appreciate that. And what you just said is 100% true. You have to be in it all the time.
All the time.
It's not, if you look at anyone successful, period.
Yeah.
It's not a part-time thing. It's not something they're like, oh, I'm going to do this 9 to 5, then I'm going to go home and hang with my buddies and get drunk and hang with my family and go do all this other stuff. And then, I'm Monday through Friday, for sure, I'm 100% in it. No. Yeah. If you're gonna make a mark and if you're going to do something that's out of the box and you want to be successful at anything you do, and I'm not just talking about, making enough money to support your family. I'm talking about successful where, you're beyond in your little sector.
Right.
You're the top of the top of the top.
Yeah.
You have to do it 24 hours a day.
For sure.
There is no off time.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot of building and getting the recognition and being out there. You can't be like resting and waiting because other people are moving. Nope. Yeah.
For sure.
And I might steal your idea, man. I might become Acura Pro Jeff. No,
you are more than welcome to.
No, Acura doesn't do any manuals anymore. I couldn't do that. I can't support that move.
People ask me when I first started, first started getting a little bit bigger, people were like, hey, they pulled me aside. They're like, don't tell anyone your secret. I go, there's really no secret. Like, I'll tell everyone what it is because nobody is going to put the work in. And I had dealerships call me up all the time. Hey, listen, I used to be the owner of the dealership. I got a salesman, and he wants to see what you do. Like, he's really loves what you do, and I think you do a great job. And I know you don't want to give up your secret because you don't want everyone doing what you do, but, can you give him a couple tips? I'll tell him exactly what I did from beginning to end and what I do every day. He goes, why would you do that? I go, because he's not going to do it.
Yeah.
I spent 3 years building, real quick before we go, I spent 3 years building up this YouTube channel I had.
Yeah.
I spent 24 hours of my day when I was supposed to be selling cars, making videos, creating videos, talking about videos, promoting my videos. I spent all of my money in my savings account. I emptied my 401k.
Wow.
I spent every dollar I had to put into YouTube for traveling, for giveaways, for everything I could.
Yeah.
Because I needed to make it, like, this was my passion. I'm going to make this work. And I just kept pushing and pushing, not really knowing where it was going. Like, I never ever thought that I'd be doing, a podcast with you today talking about Honda as the expert of Honda.
Right.
Like, that never ever crossed my mind. It just kind of happened after all the work I put in, which is outstanding.
Yeah,
but no one's gonna work for free. Everyone wants, if someone calls me up,
if you're gonna build something, you're gonna have to work for free a little bit. That's part of it.
You
have to. Yeah.
I think you have to, at least in today's day and age with all the social media, you have to give more than you're expecting to receive.
Exactly.
I get hundreds of messages a day, and I answer as many as I can and give advice and tips and connect people left and right. I don't get paid for any of that stuff.
Right.
But it's part of the gig. Like, it's part of part of me being Honda Pro.
Now, you see, that Honda Pro Jason, he's an all right gentleman. He invited me to drive his Type R if I'm ever in Chicago. I might go to Chicago just to drive his Type R. Anyways, next up, as promised, I've got to play a couple songs off of this new Blazy album. Blazy is a San Antonio MC, and I always show love to San Antonio MCs, especially if they're my boys. Anyways, produced by DJ Swordkilla, and you can find it at djswordkiller@bandcamp.com. This is 2 tracks off of the new album, SwordPlay by Blazy. See y'all next time on the Street Report, and don't forget to share it with a friend. All right, love y'all.
Where are you today? Do you know your way? Or searching for some mountains lost? Just wanting your wind at any cost.
I got no chill, for real, never learn from mistakes. Addicted to bullshit, plus living with lack of faith. Every way I turn, get burned, stuck with an aftertaste. Foul shit exists, life held together with masking tape, that's the breaks. Obnoxious, run your pockets, I need dollars. Music don't pay shit, fuckin' with street scholars. No peace, the recipe gon' be with pop collars. Crack stellars with good feathers, hanging with top models. I do not follow, stubborn to my last breath. Any advice, think twice, suffer a crash test. Been mad blessed, obsessed, trying to stay fresh. Come to grips, I'm a piece of shit. I'm out for the fast checks, a tad less responsible. I need a reset, feel like a zombie getting rock bottom, the devil's reject. American Idol was fighting, throw a bunch of secrets. It's not me, you see, escape is the best defense.
Where are you today? Do you know your way? Or searching for some mountains lost? Just wanting your wind at any
You better run fast away from the scumbag. I'm hostile. Before you get touched, sucker punch, flood up your nostrils. All I know is this bitch, my shit is like gospel. People run when they come around, underground like a fossil. I got to give up when it cross by any means. It never ends, so most my friends turn enemies. That's how it is, people live with evil tendencies. Bad energy, know that they only way to remember me. Many contenders me, throwing blows with the champ. Holy feel, you know the deal, yo, my sound will enhance. Take notes on the approach, rocking the wristband. Feel like a born loser trying to maneuver beside the quicksand. It gets deep, don't sleep, the mind never rests. A mile a minute, there's no limits to the style I reflect. I've been a menace with the rhymes to bring it live and direct. Straight to your door, ready for woe, designing your death. Let's go.
Where are you today? Do you know your way? Or searching for some mountains lost? Just wanting your wind at any cost. From old school to new school dudes, I said the soul play. Don't spit the phlegm on the street. From old school to new school dudes, I said the soul play.
Under the table drinkers, machete blade brigade mentality, sharp thinkers, renegades with many ways to get paid, silver tongue for many ways to get laid. Keep the stick for fuck boys, got many ways to get sprayed. 50 shades of 9/11 paint to sample triple stage. One foot out, the other in the tinted range. Guillotine swing, killer bee sting. Lords of L ain't nothing but a G thing. Latina ass swallowed up her G-string. Be advised, my niggas on the real ting. Scripted for the screenplay. Sky your hands and do whatever we say. Roulette jacket, 125 on the freeway, back to back in the yacht. Kid is running shit like a relay. Hold a Mac like fast food burgers, strapping across. Leave the arm ahead and bring it like a filthy washcloth. The Oscar blues are down it like bra. You gamble with the gods, the only thing you leaving out the set with is a loss.
From old school to new school dudes, I said the soul play. Don't spit the phlegm on the street. From old school to new school dudes, I said the soul play.
You set the tone, from standing on my method of madness. More the meds of walking dead, yo, my method is savage. Specialized in record mics like I never need practice. The fact is, my tactics is certified gold, verbal gymnastics. Check the backflip of both feet, I hold heat. Dr. Strange off the chain, my misery goes deep. I proceed, try to come up, ducking the police. Smell foul as soon as the touchdown, the smoke trees. You know me well, expel the hellraiser. Cook in the kitchen, you can envision the smell of flavor. Off the grill, the thrill, the blazing is more with nature. Take a deep breath, what you expect? High in the skyscrapers. I want the paper, the power plus respect. Score face in the place, somebody better cut the check. Lawyer before lawyer, bring nothing but blood and sweat. Represent the guards, unstoppable score, I come with correct.
From old school to new school dudes, I said the soul play. Don't spit the phlegm on the street. From old school